Board. Mr. Brett Ragsdale serves as Secretary of the Board. Mr. Ragsdale, may I get a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Ms. Baker?
Here.
Ms. Bostic?
Present.
Mr. Bruce?
Present.
Mr. Campbell?
Present.
Ms. Scurlock? Here. Vice Chair Savage Towns?
Present.
And Chair Rainey.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. The Memphis and Shelby County Board of Adjustment is the oldest appointed governmental body in Memphis and Shelby County. We were established in 1925. The board hears appeals from the administration of the zoning ordinance, requests for variances from the zoning ordinance, and other requests as articulated by local zoning laws adopted pursuant to the enabling legislation. The 8 members of the board are appointed, 4 by the mayor of Memphis and 4 by the mayor of Shelby County, with confirmation by the Memphis City Council or the Shelby County Board of Commissioners. We serve without remuneration. At this time, I'd like to swear in the staff. You may all remain seated. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, thank you. May I get a motion to approve the minutes from last month's meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Mr. Secretary, please provide us a Secretary's report, if there is one this month, and then explain the procedure for today's meeting.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I do not have a Secretary's report or announcements, so I'll go with the procedure. I will introduce each case as listed on the agenda. Copies of the agenda are found on the front right podium. For each case, the planner with the Division of Planning and Development will give a presentation. Following the staff presentation, the applicant will present his or her case. After the applicant's presentation, the board will hear first from those speakers in support of the application, then from those speakers in opposition to the application, and then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to provide rebuttal. All parties who wish to provide testimony to the board will be sworn in by the chair. If a member of the audience wishes to provide testimony in support of or in opposition to a particular case on today's agenda, he or she will need to fill out speaker's cards for the record. Speaker's cards are available at the front podium. Once filled out, speaker's cards can be submitted to any DPD staff member at the left podium. We do not need speaker's cards from the applicants since their names are already part of the record. After all parties have been heard, the board will close the public hearing, make a motion, and then deliberate on the case. Pursuant to the board's rules of procedure, the time allotted for speakers will be as follows. The applicant has 5 minutes to present his or her case. The applicant may reserve unused time for his or her rebuttal. Those speaking in support of the application have 5 minutes. The 5 minutes is the total time allotted for support testimony, regardless of the number of speakers. Those speaking in opposition to the application have 10 minutes. This 10 minutes is the total time allotted for opposition testimony, regardless of the number of speakers. The applicant has 2 minutes for rebuttal, in addition to any unused time from his or her presentation time. These times do not include time for questions from and answers to members of the board. The chair may provide additional time, provided both sides are given an equal amount of additional time. If the applicant or any speaker would like to be heard after the conclusion of the public hearing, or if a board member wishes to hear additional testimony from any party, a 2/3 vote is required to open the public hearing pursuant to the board's rules of procedure. Please note that once the public hearing is reopened, both the applicant and opposition will be allowed to provide additional testimony and or rebuttal. All motions by this board will be made in the affirmative. The private acts governing the board require the affirmative vote of at least 5 members to approve an application, regardless of the number of board members present. The board may also vote to hold an application for a period not to exceed 90 days with the consent of the applicant or 30 days without the consent of the applicant. All section numbers that we refer to come from the Memphis and Shelby County Unified Development Code, or the UDC, which was adopted by the Memphis City Council and Shelby County Board of Commissioners in August of 2010 and became effective on January 1st of 2011. I will introduce the entire UDC and make it part of today's record, thus dispensing of the reading of individual sections. The board is vested with the power to act on these cases before us today under the provisions of the Chapter 9.22 of the UDC. Mr. Chairman, I submit that all cases have been filed in proper order, all applicants have been notified of this hearing, and all notice requirements have been fulfilled as required by the UDC.
All right, thank you, Mr. Secretary. At this point, the board will establish a consent agenda. To establish the consent agenda, the Secretary will call out each eligible case. If any members of the audience, staff, or board member objects to the case being placed on consent, he or she should do so by a show of hands when the Secretary reads that case. Once the consent agenda is established, the board will vote on all cases placed on that agenda as a whole and will not hold individual public hearings on that case. Mr. Secretary, which items on our agenda are eligible to be placed on consent this month?
And before I go to consent, I do want to note that item number 2, BOA 23-011, 3337 Overton Crossing Street has been withdrawn. So we're not here that, that's not going to be before us. So the consent agenda is as follows. Item number 1, BOA 22-170, 837 Florida Street as a 1-month hold. Item number 3 is going to be heard. Item number 4, BOA 23-022, 3950 Summer Avenue. Item number 5, BOA 23-023, 2356 Little John Road. Item number 6, BOA 23-024, 10545 Highway 64. Item number 7, BOA 23-025, 701 North Main Street. Item number 8, BOA 23-026, 4954 Poplar Avenue.
Mr. Ragsdale,
Yes.
would pull that case, please.
So we will hear number 8. Item number 9, BOA 23-027, 3230 Jackson Avenue. Item number 10, BOA 23-028, 4480 Westmont Road. Item number 11, BOA 23-029, 6363 Poplar Avenue. Item number 12, BOA 23-030, 620 Lauderdale Street as a 1-month hold. Item number 13, BOA 23-031, 3750 Dunn Road. And actually, we are hearing that one, I apologize. So item number 13, we're recommending rejection, so we're hearing that. Item number 14, BOA 23-033, 2860 Princeton Avenue. Item number 15, BOA 23-034, 1109, 1111, 1113, and 1115 Walker Avenue. Item number 16, BOA 23-035, 2117 Peabody Avenue as a 1-month hold. Item number 17, BOA 23-036, 3667 Lamar Avenue as a 1-month hold. Item number 18, BOA 23-037, 756 Jefferson Avenue is a 1-month hold. Item number 19, BOA 23-038, 304 North Dunlop Avenue. Item number 20, BOA 23-039, 777 Mount Moriah Road. And that has a friendly amendment that I will read. It's rather long, so bear with me. The friendly amendment reads, administrative site plan approval shall be required for the proposed building at the southwest corner of Spotswood and South Mendenhall. ASPR shall not be required for the existing apartment buildings on the site. An overall site plan shall be submitted to DPD prior to construction of the proposed building, showing the overall site parking layout for DPD records. Parking requirements for the existing buildings will remain as approved in the original site plan. A final streetscape landscape plan will show improvements in the southwest corner of Spotswood and South Mendenhall. Item number 21, BOA 23-040, 1212 Valentine Avenue. Item number 22, BOA 23-041, 2700 Mount Moriah Road as a 1-month hold. Give me 1 second, Mr. Chairman. 22. Item number 23, BOA 23-043, 1094 Faxon Avenue. And item number 24, BOA 23-044, 990 Faxon Avenue. And I do have an update. And item number 10 that we listed as eligible for consent as approval will actually be held. We need some additional information for that case, so it will be on consent as a hold.
Okay, 2 questions for you. Go over number 6 again. Was that as approval or was that a hold?
Number 6
then number 21 on Valentine, I was thinking that was going to be held, but have they agreed to just with the conditions?
Yes, that is a hold, and I apologize. 22 is eligible for consent as approval, so 21 is a hold.
21's a hold, okay.
Yes.
Mr. Ragsdale, same question with item number 24. Did you say that's a hold or approval?
24 is approval. And I apologize, this is a rather long.
It's a long list, so I think I got it.
I think we have it though, yes.
Okay, so if I could get someone to make a motion to approve, to approve the consent agenda, and that is number 1 is a hold, number 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9, approval with conditions. Number 10 is a hold. Number 11, approval with conditions. Number 12, a hold. 14 and 15 would be approval with conditions. 16, 17, 18 are all holds. 19, approval with conditions. 20, as amended by the amendment that the Secretary read for us. 21 is a hold, and 22, 23, and 24 approval with conditions.
That's correct.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, before we vote on this, I remind everybody that by voting on the consent agenda, you agree, you read the cases and are in agreement with all the conditions given by staff. With that, we'll give a roll call vote, please, Mr. Secretary.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Gerlach,
Yes.
Ms. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Bruce,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Ms. Bostic,
Yes.
Mr. Claybrook,
Yes.
Vice Chair Savage Towns,
Yes, I find that the standards of the UDC of 9.22.6 are being met and will not be unduly detrimental to the properties in the vicinity.
and Chair Raymond.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, if you're here for those cases on the consent agenda, you are free to go. You've been either approved or held as requested. Mr. Secretary, will you call our first case we're going to hear today?
Yes, sir. It's item number 3, BOA 23-019, 1190 Haney Road.
Okay, I see the applicant is here, and I know we have some opposition on this. So we'll start with a staff report. Mr. Davis, give that to us.
Yes, sir. Brett Davis, Division of Planning and Development, case BOA 23-19 concerning 1190 Hayne Road. I'll give a recap of the staff report. The owner and applicant are one and the same, Tennessee Redevelopment, represented by Mr. Bray. The request is a variance from subsection 3.6.1A, so our lot area and lot size standards to reduce the minimum lot width from 60 feet to 50 feet. That 60-foot minimum is associated with the R10 zoning district, which also has a 10,000 square foot minimum lot size that both of the proposed lots would meet. Just as a refresher, the Board of Adjustment can't approve new lots or subdivisions, so there is a companion case, subdivision case that would be subject to Land Use Control Board approval as the re-subdivision of an already platted and approved lot. The area is about 0.6 acres and there is 100 feet of frontage of the existing lot. And this parcel is in CIL Park, in the CIL Park neighborhood, and here is the platted and approved subdivision and the platted lot, number 10. Here is a vicinity map showing all property owners within 500 feet that received notice of last month's hearing. 72 notices were mailed, and we received 43 letters of opposition, 42 of which were included in the staff report. Here's a photograph of a satellite photograph including zoning boundary lines, essentially all R10 zoning and all single-family residential uses in the area. Here's a photograph of the existing structure on Lot 10 and the proposed preliminary plan. So two 50-foot lots side by side. The Land Use Control Board in 2020 approved a 2-lot subdivision here using a flag lot configuration, which is allowed, which would meet all of the minimum lot standards included in the UDC. both would have the minimum width and the minimum area. This configuration does not meet that, and that 2020 subdivision has expired because no final plat was ever recorded. So in conclusion, I think I covered all of this already, but we are recommending approval, and our main rationale is that the Land Use Control Board should be empowered to approve or reject this proposed preliminary plan based on its suitability with the character of the neighborhood. And we are recommending approval subject to Land Use Control Board approval. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, are there any questions for staff? Hearing none. All right, we'll move on to the applicant. Mr. Bray, how are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Will you give your name and address for the record?
David Bray with the Bray Firm, 2950 States Plaza North.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, go ahead and talk to us about this case.
All right, I'm not going to add a whole lot because Mr. Davis covered most of it. But so going back in 2019 or 2020, an application was filed to subdivide this lot into 2 lots using the flag lot configuration. We met with the homeowners at that time. We worked out some agreements with them, and ultimately that case went forward. The Land Use Control Board was recommended for approval. That was with a previous owner of this. COVID happened. I'm not sure what exactly happened with the original owner and not moving forward with getting the plat recorded, but he did not. My client at this time came in and bought the lot, and actually he thought he was buying 2 lots. He thought the plat had been recorded. When we got to investigating and discovered that the plat had never been recorded, and so it was still the 1 lot. And at that time, the approval from 2019 or 2020 had expired. So we made application to the Land Use Control Board back at the end of last year to basically redo that previous application with the flag lot. At that time, we had our neighborhood meeting, and the neighbors were not in agreement with the conditions that had been imposed at the time of the 2020 approval. And one of the big concerns that they had was a flag lot, moving the second house farther to the back, some drainage issues, and some filling that would have to take place in that case, and legitimate concerns, and more trees that would have to be taken out. And we heard them at that time, and subsequently withdrew our application to the Land Use Control Board, and then filed this application for a variance with a new application to the Land Use Control Board with the lots configured exactly as you see on the screen, with 2 50-foot wide lots side by side. It allows both houses to be built closer to the street, eliminates some of the grading issues. Had another round of neighborhood meetings. The neighbors have been very pleasant to work with, but they firmly object to this subdivision. And at this time, they have not been willing to come with any compromises or anything that we can work out, and short of just withdrawing the application and building 1 house on there. So what we're asking you today is to give the Land Use Control Board the opportunity to hear this. We're still open to the idea of a flag lot. We're still open to the idea of 2 50-foot wide lots. We would like to get one of those approved. We're more than willing to work with the neighborhood association. We have my client, Mr. Sled, is working with the Yorkshire Homeowner Association right now on having architectural review of the plans that he has got. The plans that are for this configuration with the 50-foot wide lots. Obviously, the house plans change a little bit if we go back to the other configuration. But under any circumstance, he's willing to work with having their architect review them for appropriateness and try to come up with something that would be acceptable to the neighborhood. So that's where we are today. We're asking you guys to approve this so that we can go forward in 2 weeks to Land Use Control Board and give them the opportunity to look at both alternatives and see where they stand on that. Be happy to answer any questions, and I'll just reserve the rest of my time for after the opposition speaks.
Okay, you've reserved 5.5 minutes.
Okay,
I have a question. Did you work on the original?
I did.
So at the time when y'all did that and we're talking about flag lights and stuff, was there neighborhood at those land use control meetings or were there?
We did, and we
Yeah.
worked with them, and that plat, and I don't have a copy of that plat with me today, had some very specific conditions regarding windows and architectural styling of the house, basically having to do with the architectural style of the house. And more so than that, in fact, at the last minute, we flipped the plan. We had the flag lot as the southern lot, and the normally configured lot as the northern lot. And because of concerns about where that would cause the driveway to be placed in that configuration, we actually flipped it at the very last minute, the night before the Land Use Control Board meeting. So yes, we did work with them and worked out conditions of approval at that time.
Okay. And when did y'all, what year was that? Remind me the date again.
It was end of 20, I remember we had the neighborhood meeting, so I would say it was either very, very early 2020 or late 2019. It was before we went to virtual meetings.
That's what, that's what.
That's how I tell time now.
Yeah, exactly. Any other questions? All right, thank you. We'll reserve that time for you. I have two cards up here for, well, unless there's anyone here else to speak in support. Okay, so we'll move to opposition. I have two cards up here. I have someone from the Neighborhood Association and then an individual. Do y'all care who goes first? I guess you do. And I guess you're Miss...
I'm Jean McInerney.
McInerney. Okay, if you'll give your name and address for the record for me.
Jean McInerney, 1361 West Crestwood Drive.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, now do you want us to, you have 10 minutes to split. Do you want me to tell you at a certain point you're so far in, or you just want to?
3 minutes, please.
3 minutes, okay, we'll do it.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
I'd like to start by being clear that the Yorkshire Neighborhood Association is here today to oppose this case. It is true that Mr. Bray's client made a last-minute request to avail himself of the Design Review Committee process, but as of yesterday afternoon, I spoke with the gentleman who's agreed to do the review, and we have not received that package of information, and we made it very clear to Mr. Bray and his client that if his client did proceed with that process, that it was with the understanding that we were still in full opposition to this case. So I'd like to make that clarification. The Yorkshire Neighborhood Association, Inc. urges you to reject the requested variance. Our comments will focus upon a summary of the residents' feedback and our UDC analysis. The association has seen 43 letters from residents opposing this application and 0 letters supporting it. As you contemplate section 9.22.6A of the UDC, please refer to attachment 1, which is on your screen right now, and attachment 2, which is in the staff report. I think it's approximately page 5051. You will see a map and a chart of the lot widths within 500 feet of the subject site. First, based on that objective data, we urge you to find that a 100-foot lot width is not an unusual condition, not an unusual characteristic in our neighborhood. Please reject this variance. Second, as you consider section 9.6.22.6A, we ask that you find that the subject site's lot width is neither an undue hardship nor a peculiar or exceptional practical difficulty. Rather than being a strict application of the regulation, we maintain that a subdivision is a discretionary entitlement. We look to section 9.7.7H2 of the UDC, and when you objectively apply subsection B dealing with size and width of all lots within 500 feet of the proposed subdivision, which is what you have on your screen, please reject this discretionary entitlement because the proposed 50-foot lot widths are not in keeping with the character of the development in our neighborhood. Third, under paragraph A5, we plead that you reject this variance because it is disharmonious with our neighborhood. The creation of 2 50-foot lots will be so out of character and so injurious to the lots within the vicinity of the subject that our neighborhood will suffer permanent detriments. For these reasons, please find that the applicant has not met its burden under the UDC, and please reject this variance. Thank you for considering our position carefully. My neighbor, Bob Cremerius, will address other points.
Okay, can we ask a few questions? You had 3 seconds left. You did really good. So there's not like an official, like, it's voluntary membership in the neighborhood association, is
This
that
is a
right?
neighborhood association, not a homeowners association.
Right.
So yes, sir, it is voluntary.
And give us the area of your,
The boundaries of our association are Park Avenue on the north, Quinch Road on the south, Estate Drive on the west, and I-240 on the east. This is the area traditionally known as Yorkshire. Many of you may be familiar with it, driving by and seeing the blue lights on the border of the neighborhood.
you're
We have police
basically
cameras.
everything east of the Sea Isle Park Neighborhood Association all the way to the interstate.
Actually, there's 2 neighborhood associations
Oh, so y'all
that
grabbed
have
some
this
of that?
territory, but to my knowledge, they have not filed a comment.
Right. And then,
This property is within the boundaries of YNA.
sure. Are there any other questions?
Well, can you, I understand in 2020 that a plan was approved. Were you guys, did the neighborhood association speak up then, or did they say anything then? And if so, what's changed between then and now?
Thank you for that question. Yes, I was personally involved in the application that was filed in roughly October of 2019. It's ironic, but the day that we had the stakeholders meeting for that project, we started, I think, like at 6 p.m. at either 7 or 7:30. We convened a meeting to discuss the creation of a new neighborhood association. So they were literally back-to-back meetings in the same location. And one of the reasons that YNA was created is because there was a group of neighbors who felt that our interests were not being represented by the existing organization, and we wanted to have more direct input and control into the project. So this project, actually, the predecessor, actually came about before the formation of YNA, but we had people who were involved. And I think that a couple of things have happened to change the neighborhood's position. Number one, there was reluctance from the beginning to have a flag lot. We had discussions about attempting to work with the builder and attempting to be reasonable, and frankly, it was a last minute. I can remember getting an email between like 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. on the date of the board hearing that we got notice from the applicant that he was going to agree to our conditions. So we really went up to the wire to know whether or not that we did have an agreement. And then I think the neighbors have been very frustrated with the current owner of the property and the way that it has not maintained other properties that it owns in the neighborhood. They have owned, to my knowledge, 3 other properties in addition to this one. And frankly, the principals have not followed through on discussions with the design review committee with YNA about things like design control, architectural controls. And so there's great hesitancy in the neighborhood to even negotiate because we've not seen the principals follow through. We've heard promises, sure we'll negotiate, sure we'll do this, but we've not seen that materialize. So in our letter, I'm sure you've had a chance to read it, that's why we said we don't anticipate any opportunity for negotiation on this. So I think that the change in ownership made a difference. And then also there's been other development in the area. The Albertine project, there's a 12-lot subdivision that is southwest of this project. And it coincidentally, that application came in probably within 30 days or less after this one. And that was a game changer, I think, in our neighborhood. It was the largest development in about 20 years. And those homes are absolutely gorgeous. They're selling for about $900,000 each. They're custom homes. They're all architect designed by Brad Shapiro. And our neighbors have seen that. And it's like, we want more of that. We don't want flag lot configuration. We don't want front lot width variances. We want an opportunity to keep the larger lot sizes that we do have and to see beautiful architecture in the neighborhood.
Okay. Well, I heard you, just a follow-up question. I heard you say that you were concerned about the owner's history of following through with promises made.
Yes, sir.
So if we approve it, there may be conditions here that they would have to, the owner would have to follow through on. It wouldn't be optional. Would that help any?
Well, when you have a situation where the owner doesn't even keep the grass cut at the subject site, it's hard to convince neighbors to do that. We submitted service requests. A number of neighbors, some of them are here standing or sitting behind me, submitted, you may know them as 311 or C-Click Fix complaints. We've had a number of those submitted for this subject site, 1190 Haney Road, where the grass hasn't been cut. I've taken photos last summer, and the grass was like this tall in some areas. The city came out not once, but twice. The city sent a vendor. They declared that there was a violation. They sent a notice of violation, and there was no response. So because we know how the process works, we contacted the mayor's office, and the city provided a vendor to come out and cut the grass. That's twice within the first 6 months of their ownership of this property. So again, when you have that situation on top of the concern regarding the architectural controls, there's just not any comfort at all that's a good combination for our neighborhood. We just haven't seen them be a good neighbor.
Thank you.
But as far as the architectural controls, that's all voluntary, right? Because you
Yes,
don't
it
have
is.
there's no restrictions as to an architectural control committee. That's something that just y'all do.
Every time the neighborhood has an application, the design review committee, through our design review committee, we reach out to the builder and we ask for voluntary cooperation.
Sure.
And we've generally gotten it. I mean, since we've been in existence.
Yeah.
Which is late 2019.
Right, and I fully understand why you'd want to do that. It's just like when things aren't done at the very beginning, makes it harder to enforce stuff like that. But
we have gotten as far as negotiating a declaration on a prior case, and we're assured that the owners would sign, and then they didn't. So we've literally spent money, thousands of dollars in attorney's fees, and then not signed the agreement. So there's just great reluctance to go forward on really any basis other than what the neighbors requested and what the neighbors want, which is one house on that lot.
And you spoke about that, the subdivision where Greg Shapiro was the architect?
Brad Shapiro, yes,
Brad
sir.
Shapiro, I'm sorry. Tell me where that was again. I'm trying to picture it.
It's a new street. It's called the Colony Subdivision, and it is one block north of the intersection of Haney Road and Seal Road. So it's within a block and a half, maybe 2 blocks south of this subject. It'd be southwest, and the name of the street is Shady Breeze Cove. It's 12 new lots, and that was also approved, if I'm not mistaken, in late 2019. They're still in construction, still in development and construction.
Do you know how that was created? Did they do their own just full subdivision for that? And I guess they took some existing lots?
There were 2 lots, 1325 and 1343 Haney, if I'm not mistaken, and they combined those 2 lots and then presented a plan to re-subdivide it into the 12 lots. And they met with the neighborhood, met with the design review committee. And importantly, as I can hear my neighbors behind me thinking, there were no, they did not ask for any zoning variances, so they met the R10 requirements. And if you look at other developments north of this subject on Haney Road, houses built by Griffin Elkington, some addresses would be like 1119, 1125 Haney. Those lots are R10 with or higher, and they've all sold very well. So our neighborhood is just not a small lot house. I mean, the lots are just not that narrow. We are known for having larger lots. That's why many of us bought homes there, because we wanted the trees, we wanted the large lots.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you have sidewalks in your neighborhood?
On some streets, but not all.
What about,
On Haney Road, there's a combination. There are some residents here from Haney that could help me, but I know some blocks on Haney don't have sidewalks. And if I'm not mistaken, in front of 1190 Haney, there's not a sidewalk. There is not in front of 1190 Haney. If you go further north, there are sidewalks. Probably the first block off of Park, between Park and the first street, there'd be sidewalks.
So if they added a sidewalk in front of this proposed development, it wouldn't have a sidewalk to connect onto on either side.
It doesn't on the
Probably.
north, does it on the south, people? They tell me no.
Okay, thank you.
Do you know of any other lots going north on Haney from this house that have been re-subdivided?
Yes, sir.
They have been, okay.
Those are some of the ones that I mentioned in passing, lots re-subdivided by Griffin Elkington. There were, if I'm not mistaken, 4 lots between Park and South Irvin Drive that Griffin redeveloped. If you're looking at a map, there on the northwest corner is a gated community, and then there's one house next to that. And then if you go down like about between 4 and 6 houses all in a row on the west side, those are all the result of infill development. We've tried very hard, and we do pride ourselves on trying to work with builders, developers, especially those that have, been cooperative and appreciate good design like we and our neighbors do.
Do you know of any, like I'm looking at the map and the tax map, I see what looks like to be a flag lot, 2 lots off of Park.
Yes, sir, I'm familiar
But
with that.
Is it actually, but it looks like the same person owns the front and the back.
Yes, that was, Cindy Reeves handled that. That was Bub Shepherd's. He remodeled the home that's on the second lot, and he got the flag lot approved. There was some opposition in the neighborhood, but it was summertime and a lot of people were on vacation, so
Sure.
we didn't have as strong an outcome as we would today. But the current owner of the remodeled home does own the lot next door, and it's our understanding that she has no intention of building on it. She wants it as a playground for her son.
Gotcha, okay,
That's the only flag lot in the neighborhood.
right, okay. Any other questions before we move to the other opposition? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Cremarius? If you'll give your name and address for the record, I'll swear you in.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, name and address for the record, then I'll swear you in.
My name is Bob Cremarius, and I live at 5390 Sea Isle Road.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Before I start my prepared comments, if I could just follow up a little bit on what y'all were talking about. Since the original approval of the flag lot for this particular property, there's been a lot of interest in our neighborhood. As Gene mentioned, we've had the 12-lot development approved. Griffin Elkington built 4 houses on Haney, and those have piqued the interest of the neighborhood, so to speak. Now, none of those properties required any kind of waivers or zoning changes. We successfully opposed splitting a lot requiring a waiver on I believe it's South Irvin recently. And I think now is why these developments are getting attention. We have a group of neighbors and we get together and we discuss what's going on. So that's why there's so much interest now, maybe not so much previously as the process was starting. Let me go into this. This particular property is important to me, my family, and our neighborhood. My family has lived in this neighborhood in 2 different houses for over 30 years. And what drew us to this neighborhood was the existence of the large treed lots. Most homes in the area have lots in excess of 100 feet frontage. Splitting the reference lot into 2 lots with only 50 feet of frontage and then building 2 homes would stand out like a sore thumb. The proposal does not fit within the original plan of our neighborhood, and this waiver and development would set a precedent for more interior waivers, thereby detrimentally affecting the character which drew most of us to the neighborhood in the first place. The waivers that have been approved are predominantly on the perimeter on the busy streets like Park around the neighborhood. I believe that opposing this waiver and development is not inconsistent with the Memphis Plan 3.0 Mayor Jim Strickland made the following comments in the front of the Memphis plan. Ours is a neighborhoods first administration, and that is a philosophy incorporated into Memphis 3.0, the long-term plan for our city. And we agree as neighbors that the neighborhood residents' interests should be first. And of the 43 letters submitted from 38 households, as we stated before, 100% are opposed to this waiver. There's another graph, I don't know if we can put it up there, that shows the site, and all the properties in the impact zone with red X's have submitted opposition letters. On page 67 of the Memphis plan, it states ways to sustain, promote, infill that is contextually compatible, maintain most existing zoning standards. This project is not compatible with the existing width of almost every property in the neighborhood. Under implementation of the plan, page 151, it states zoning amendments ensure that the form, intensity, and character of infill developments aligns with community aspirations. Once again, this zoning waiver request does not align with community aspirations as shown by the overwhelming opposition from neighbors as exhibited in the letters submitted and the large number of people that showed up today. It's not that we're opposed to new developments. I believe a nicely designed single-family home would be a great addition to 1190 Haney. My wife, who's here today, and I supported the 12-lot development currently underway by the Albertine Company, which is directly behind my house. The developer, in that case, worked with our neighborhood and agreed to maintain the R10 zoning and proper frontage and build in accordance with the character of the neighborhood. The developer in this current proposed case has not been responsive to our neighborhood. Our neighborhood has consistently expressed to the developer our desire to maintain the character of our neighborhood by supporting a single-family home on this property. The developer clearly stated in one meeting that his motivation for 2 homes was purely financial. As a neighborhood, I don't know what else we could do to achieve a rejection of this request for waiver. We've outlined the code requirements for a waiver, reviewed the city's 3.0 plan, involved neighbors, especially those within the impact zone, and presented 100% opposition. Please help us preserve the character of our neighborhood by rejecting this request for waiver. Thank you again for allowing me to speak.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Opposition? Tina, thank you so much. All right, is there anybody else? How much time? We have 2 minutes left to see if there's any other opposition, or we can just move back to the applicant. Yeah, you can come back up. Yeah, please, thank you.
If it's appropriate, we'd like to reserve those 2 minutes to rebut, no?
You can't, there's no, they're just,
Okay.
they rebut and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll just ask everyone that is here to oppose this project to please stand behind me.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate y'all's willingness to sit and be somewhat quiet. We sometimes get opposition that starts snapping a lot and doing all sorts of things. So it's really nice to have well-behaved people. All right, then we're going to move back to the applicant, and you have, what did we have again?
Hey, I do have one question that
Okay.
I guess the applicant can answer when he gets back up.
Okay, yeah, we'll go ahead and, why don't you rebut, and then we'll ask the question, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. It was 5?
Yes.
You're right. Yeah, so 7 minutes.
Okay.
If you need it.
And I agree with your statement regarding, I don't think we've agreed on a single point, but it's been pleasurable as we disagreed. So
Yeah.
they've been a pleasure to work with. Just want to clean up a couple of the issues, and I'm texting right now as the opposition was speaking with my client. He had the Land Use Control Board meeting down and not this meeting down, and he's scrambling to get here from Collierville, but I don't think he's going to make it before we're done. On the grass cutting issue, this property had gone through a couple of different owners. Most of it was all part of the same entities, 2 partners that were overlapping with one partner. And anyway, did not get cleaned up in the register site as to who the proper owners were. So they did not get notices from the city of Memphis regarding the grass cutting last year. He assured me that it's already been cut this year. It's on a rotation to stay cut. Yesterday, they were removing a dead tree from this property. So that issue is being addressed. As far as the architectural review, he has not gotten those plans over to Mr. Spelch yet, which was the designated person by YNA, but he intends to get that done. Whether as two 50-foot wide lots or as the flag lot configuration with different house styles, either way, we are agreeable to that. We're agreeable for that to be a condition of approval, whether that can be a condition of approval by this board or that would be a condition going forward to the Land Use Control Board. We'd be happy to work with staff and get that added in, that we would agree to submitting the plans to their architectural design committee and working out something that would be agreeable to the neighborhood. I think that's all the points that I had, so if somebody had a question, I'd be happy to answer the question.
Well, my question, I think, and it might have been addressed, I might have just missed it. When this was approved in 2020, 2019, what was the intent at that time for the usage of the lots? Was it approved at that point or submitted as 250-foot lots at that time?
No, at that time, there was no variance request. It was submitted as one lot that was essentially 80 by 125. And then the balance was 20 feet wide. If you sort of look at that building setback along the northern lot, a stem that came back and then opened up into the back portion for a pipe stem lot or a flag lot.
Okay.
I don't know, do we have a copy of that old plan? Okay.
Other questions? I have a question for staff real quick on this. So whatever we do here, if we approved it, it would have to go to Land Use Control Board. What if they had done, could they do a PD? We know that PDs kind of just let you figure out exactly what you want to do and put all sorts. Would we still be here for the PD, or is it because it's a subdivision that we're here?
No, so those would be two alternative paths that it would be up to the applicant which one to take. So a variance and a subdivision to achieve this specific plan, or a PD, which would go to City Council for approval.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
the subdivision goes to Land Use Control Board for approval and is appealable to the City Council.
Gotcha. Okay. That helps. Other questions? Okay. Thank you very much. All right, so if we could, just so everybody knows, we always do our motions in the affirmative, and then we'll start talking about them. So to be able to discuss on the board, we need a motion to approve BOA 23-19 as conditioned by staff.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
So help me understand, we are approving one portion of this, and then land use has to approve the entire.
Yeah, we're not
project?
approving this, we can't approve the subdivision. We're allowing them to have 2 50-foot frontages when 65 feet is required. Is that right?
60.
60, okay, sorry.
Oh. Okay.
It's always an odd one when, a lot of times you have a property that's super narrow. And this is one that is not super narrow.
Right.
It's like, we want to make it too narrow for what code has, so finding the hardship is a little tough from my perspective.
That's what I'm alluding to. Hardship
It
is.
seems like the PD might be better, but then, of course, that's more steps. It goes to council and approval. I understand why they're here. Any other thoughts?
We're in discussion.
Yeah, we're in discussion, yeah.
Okay. Well, I will not vote for this application, and two reasons, basically. I just can't see that this property, and you don't have the big graphic of all the neighborhood up there right now, but when I looked at it before, I just couldn't see any difference, really, that would say that this property was larger. Maybe a little different configuration, but I did not see any unusual physical characteristics that would make it meet our standards for approval of a variance. And then I have to say this, I just think this process of the Board of Adjustment approving a narrower width so that an applicant can then go to the city council to divide it into 2 lots using this narrow width. I just don't think that's a correct process. I think it gets the cart before the horse. And I think plan development or rezoning and subdivision, that's the correct process. So for those reasons, I will not be voting for this application.
I think I almost tend to agree, just because normally when you're looking at variances, you're looking at what the contextual of the neighborhood is, and you're saying, okay, there's other houses that contextually fit within a narrower lot. In this case, it seems like contextually, if I'm correct and believe what you all are saying, the surrounding houses are on larger lots. So it seems in my mind, counterintuitive to go against the UDC, which puts a minimum on 60 for something that's not going to be within the context of the neighborhood. So that's what I'm struggling with, because that doesn't, to your point, that doesn't seem to be a hardship that we're trying to allow something that is out of character.
I don't disagree with that at all. I'm looking at two. I would have never, as an attorney, if I'd known my client wanted to put 2 houses on this, and it was just 1 lot, I'd be asking, why isn't the plat recorded? Why isn't all this stuff done? They just got to, I don't know if they just didn't, I also have clients all the time that don't tell me what they're going to do with things. They just buy them. So I'm not trying to throw an attorney under the bus at all. But yeah, it seems like the applicant had all the ways in the world not to be in this position, and also has a great lot they could build a house on in a desirable community. It's not like, oh man, this is just terrible. I mean, there's zoning, there's private restrictions on not re-subdividing these lots. I mean, there's just a lot of obstacles and then for us to say, and there's a hardship, is tough.
And to add to that, I'm not real. I mean, this is 10 foot less than what UDC specifies. If the lot was 60, a 60-foot lot would seem to still be kind of small comparatively. But I would not disagree with a 60-foot lot because it would meet the intent of the UDC. But since this is going even less than the UDC, it makes it harder to approve something that's not even up to the standard of the UDC.
Yeah. This particular neighborhood, the way it was platted, just runs from Park and around down Haney, just below, I think there's 1 lot below, I think that's Glenbrier. Yeah, right there. And you can't see it because it's really small, but each lot has to be 19,000 square feet, to build a house on, already in the restrictions that were put on when the houses were built. So, yeah, I can't vote for that. If they want to do a PD and get that approved by council and all that, that's fine with me. Any other thoughts? Okay, with that, if you'll give us a roll call vote, please, Mr. Ragsdale.
Yes, sir. Ms. Baker?
No.
Ms. Bostic? No. Mr. Campbell?
No.
Ms. Gerlach?
No.
Mr. Claybrook?
No.
Mr. Bruce?
No.
Vice Chair Savage Towns?
No, I find the standards of the UDC of 9.22.6 are not being met, and this property will be detrimental to the other properties in the vicinity.
And Chair Rainey?
No.
Motion fails.
Motion fails. All right, thank y'all for coming down. Thank you for all being cordial. We appreciate you. Y'all could have some discussions outside the room if you'd like, in a very polite way. Mr. Ragsdale, will you call our next case we're going to hear today?
Yes, sir. It's item number 8, BOA 23-026, 4954 Poplar
I
Avenue.
don't think. Is that better? Okay. All right, is the applicant present?
Okay. Okay, that's good,
You won't be able
thanks.
to see us?
And was there any opposition to this case? I think this was the one that you pulled, okay.
Right.
Do you want to talk specifically, or do you want a staff report? What would you like to do on this one? We can do whatever.
I wouldn't mind just having a real brief
Okay.
staff report, just pointing
Yeah.
out, what's on the site right now, what they're
Okay.
requesting and so on, the conditions of the site. right now.
Great. Ms. Cobbs, if you can give us a brief staff report and talk a lot about the site, that would be great.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kendra Cobbs, Division of Planning and Development. So this is a request pursuant to BOA 98-042, and that is the reason why the request has been made, because there are requested modifications to an approved site plan, which was approved on BOA 98-042. The location is on Poplar Avenue, 4954 Poplar Avenue. Let me move to, okay, so here's our map. This is in East Memphis. And looking at what's currently on the site. So it's currently the location of Pride Car Wash. And we can see the outline of the building in this vicinity map. I will move down. Here's an aerial view, so it's a little better view of what's existing on site. So within the final plat, the subdivision does consist of 2 lots, but the request for modifications is on Lot 1. This Lot 2 is the site of an off-premise sign or a billboard. And the zoning is commercial mixed use 3. And so what the changes consist of, essentially, this is Google Street View. And so looking at this image, the applicant is requesting that this part of the building be removed. And so we would just have this part of the structure existing, and there is a freestanding sign on site that is Lot 1, and the billboard, which is on Lot 2. And so with the request to remove this metal building, the replacement would be a vacuum area. If I can get to the, it's in your staff report as well. So page 17 of the staff report shows a site plan of what will be proposed. This will be 13 spaces of a vacuum area, and then the western part of the building would remain. Also, there will be parking spaces added, 4 parking spaces added to the eastern property line. And here's another view showing the vacuum area, more like an aerial view. And also there would be some landscaping that would be added to the site. And so with that, staff is recommending approval with the 2 conditions that if there are any additional changes in the future to the site plan, that would have to be approved by the board. Also, the existing detached sign, freestanding sign on Lot 1, if there are any changes to that sign, obviously they would have to meet the requirements of the CMU3 sign regulations. So that concludes staff's report. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, go ahead, Mrs. Baker.
Well, I pulled this case off the consent agenda because it has a principal use, a car wash, and a billboard. And I'm concerned that this is probably going to be our last opportunity to get the billboard either off the site or at least have some end date of when it would be off the site. And we have one case on our agenda this time that I think is an amendment of a case that was approved in 1950. So these cases they go on forever, basically. They don't go away. And so I'm concerned that we would be saying that this billboard would be there forever. It violates several conditions, several regulations in the Unified Development Code. It's on the same, you say this is 2 lots, but I have a hard time seeing it that way because it's used as one overall development site with the drives and the parking and everything. It's all shared between the car wash and the billboard. And so it violates the one principal building per lot requirement. It's not within 300 feet of an interstate. And it violates a new provision that we have added, I want to say within the last couple of years, out of this concern of accessory uses of one principal use being on the lot with the billboard. That if it's going to be on its own lot, it should be on its own lot. It should not be combined with another use. So I want to make sure that we're going into this with our eyes open. We're not just not noticing this is what we're doing. And so what I would like to do is, I'm trying to get to it, I'd like to propose 3 additional conditions, if I can find them here. Okay, there are 2 conditions right now that are recommended. I'd like to add number 3, the existing billboard shall remain as a non-conforming sign and shall not be expanded or changed in any way other than routine maintenance. And I think that's probably what you meant already, but it's not stated there. And so, by making it a legal use through a variance, then it could be converted to digital, anything like that could happen. And so I'd like to add that condition, number 3. Number 4, the existing billboard shall not be converted to digital or to any other than static display. I want to make sure about that. And here's the 5th one. The existing billboard shall be removed from the site by April 25th, 2028. That's a 5-year time limit. And of course, as we all know, he could come back in 5 years and say, I can't quite get it done, and it could be extended. But at least we wouldn't be, by this vote today, saying, let's see, 1950, 23, we're talking 73. At 73 years from today, the board wouldn't be sitting here, and that property there and that billboard, in that condition. I'd like to have an end date for that billboard.
If I may, so in the conditions, the existing conditions, the condition number 2, that signage is for signage that's on lot 1. So the billboard is actually on lot 2, which is shown on the subdivision plat, which is on page 4 of the staff report. So the billboard was subdivided out into its own separate lot in 2008 on lot 2, but the lot 1 is the freestanding sign for the car wash.
Yeah, but it's one overall development site. If you put a fence around that lot 2, that site couldn't operate, could it? No. Couldn't get in there, wouldn't have enough parking. It's all, when you combine lots into an overall development site, you can't then go back and tease them out and say, well, this is 2 lots. Because it's really not, is it? It's one development site. Because you've been allowed to develop over the lot lines. A lot of jurisdictions might not let you do that. They might make you combine the 2 lots together in a plat, that a consolidation plat. They might make you do that. But we don't do that. We just let them combine lots and build over them, and we consider it one development site. But you can't then go back and say this is a separate lot, because it absolutely is not. There may be some lot lines there, but it's one big development site. That's my point.
Mr.
And,
Chairman, I believe that Ms. Cobbs was trying to point out that condition number 2 is related to the Mr. Pride sign. So,
Right.
Because you had mentioned, I just wanted to clarify, you had mentioned that maybe that's what we were trying to accomplish with our condition, but that is actually, that condition is only for the detached on-premise Mr. Pride sign. So just making sure that that's clear.
That's on lot 1.
yeah, okay. I thought you were saying that you were thinking that Lot 2 was standing out there by itself, and I apologize if I misunderstood what you were saying. No, I'm talking about the off-premise sign. That's what I'm talking about. And I'm glad that you're bringing the detached sign into conformance. And I think it just points up the fact that, here we are, we're worrying about making sure that that on-premise sign is brought down to whatever size it is supposed to be based on the zoning and the frontage. But yet here's this 672 square foot sign that is right there next to it. And if we approve this, then we're saying it's going to be there forever. Basically forever.
I have a question, a point of clarity. So what are we approving? Because Mary keeps alluding to the billboard, but on the, I guess I need a refresher on BOA 98042. And
So that case, back in 1998, it approved there was an existing building on site at that time, and also an existing billboard.
Okay.
And so that BOA case approved those 2 principal uses. And also allowed, I think they were making changes to the site at that time. So site changes to the building, so that's why it had to go before the board. But today, the request, and then just to go back, in 2008, this lot where the car wash exists was subdivided.
Okay.
So it put the car wash with the Pride Car Wash sign on lot 1, and then lot 2 is the billboard, which I have up here on the screen. So right here, that was back in 2008. And so today, the request is to modify the building, which would remove this western portion of the building and also add a vacuum area, the 13-space vacuum area in place of this building, and also landscaping. And just one of the conditions, part of the site or part of the staff review was that this freestanding car wash sign, since it is on that lot, I'm sure that, it appears that the business is changing hands, so that they would want to update that sign, so we want to bring that into conformance.
So, but basically, the lot 2 is, I'm not saying it's not an issue, but it's not.
It's untouched.
It's not a part of the request for the application.
Our site plan uses Lot 2.
Yes.
The driveway and everything, like Lot 2 is part of this.
You can't tease Lot 2 out. The drive is on there, the parking's on there. Once you put lots together like that into one development site, you can't go back and claim them. They're consolidated into one development site.
I think I would agree if for some reason, nothing that we needed on this lot went over that, like if the drive went around it, no parking on it, then hands off,
it would
right?
be
Isn't it?
totally different.
But that's not what they're requesting. They're requesting us to have driveways over this billboard lot.
And there's no other way to do it, really, where that billboard is, I don't think.
I've got a question, I guess, for staff and for Mary, maybe. I'm fine with putting a sunlight on the billboard, and I agree with you that, you know, they're driving over it and everything without any further information of, first of all, this site is not owned by the applicant. I don't think so. I believe he's renting it. Is that correct? The billboard is most likely on a lease. We don't have the information of how long that lease is for. I'm fine with putting at the end of their initial lease term, or they probably have options that they can exercise. I need more information than just saying 5 years, you got to make it go away.
Then,
Yeah, I mean,
I'd be okay
we've
with
dealt
that.
with these in the past where, you know, let's go back to Enterprise on Mount Moriah, where it was going to cost $300,000 for them to buy the lease out, and that's, you know, an onus that I don't think we need to put on this landlord without all the information.
Then I would be fine with holding it
Well,
if
could-
the applicant.
I didn't mind Mary suggesting, because with her saying that, it's like, they can come back in 5 years. I don't
They
really care
can,
how long it is.
yeah.
But it also seems more expedient.
I'd rather just know
No,
on the front end
let's
of,
know
hey,
in a-
this
know
is
in a
when it's
month.
going to
Like,
go
I mean,
away.
I'd take either option
Well,
personally.
could we not approve the work on, could we not exclusively approve the work right now on Site A? Because it looks like, I mean,
Then they don't come back.
And,
well, I mean, nothing can be done on, it looks like work right now, particularly landscaping, is being done on parcel 2.
yeah, but it's all one development site. You can't drive in that site. If you took that billboard lot away, you couldn't even get in there.
I think
You just have to go in the other side,
It's not their site.
make a right, then go back up. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I think
theoretically.
they could change it, and you could,
If they
because of
wanted
the
to
way they're
change-
removing the building.
Yeah, if they wanted to change their site plan to take that billboard lot completely out of it, I'd be okay with that too. I mean, I wouldn't be okay with it, but I wouldn't be anything we do about it.
Do we know if both lots are under common ownership?
They are.
They are, yes.
As of the register site, like I've not been
It's one big lot. The only reason why they created that lot is because, you know, they saw it coming on the horizon. There were changes to the zoning ordinance coming in 1999, and they knew it, and so they came in and created those lot lines.
So at the time when this was approved, when the BOA, I guess the BOA at some point looked at this with the billboard as well and approved it, correct?
They did.
So are we suggesting that we now unapprove, or to your point, you know, if you want to put a time frame on it?
I'd
but-
like to, our attitudes in general on billboards have vastly changed.
Okay, that's what I was trying to
Between
get.
1998 and
Okay,
now,
that's-
and really probably around 2008, when they did that plat, that's what was coming down. You can't put a billboard on Poplar anymore.
Yeah.
They have to be, you know, along the interstate. So
Okay.
that's why it was just different times and different bites of the apple. So I'd like to talk to the applicant real quick, if that's okay. If you could come forward, sir, and give your name and address for the record.
Michael Wise, 1227 Lakeview Drive.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And then, okay, got a couple questions for you. I mean, you can talk all you want, but
Okay.
are you okay with holding this to try to figure out more about that billboard? Or,
I mean, just real quick, is there any way that we can do any kind of approval variance to be able to continue with the work on Lot 1, to be able to progress with the permit and the process and put conditions on final?
That was kind of my thought, because this project, the bulk of this project is about the building removal and the vacuum center, which is irrelevant to some degree with the billboard's location. So
Yeah,
Because with those, I mean, I don't mean to interrupt, but with those conditions, we're still having to provide all the same documents and information that's being requested to make a final decision.
Well, then what I would suggest is that we just approve the condition of 5 years, and then you can come back and,
Prove that. 'Cause I
at the end of 5 years, and
Within that, are we allowed to
That
have the
doesn't stop you
options
from
that
going
we can
ahead?
have an extension based off of additional requirements?
So,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Flesh that out a little bit.
So I'm not the property owner. I don't hold the leases. So just as we already stated is, I'd have to be able to gather all that information, so it's not undue hardship on the current owner of buying out or redoing anything at that magnitude in 5 years. So just making sure that he has a variance to be able to, have an option to say, okay, my lease is for another 10 years, and we need to have an extension, that we have that prior approval to where it's not just 5 years, and then it's a different council at that time that says, no, it's 5 years.
It would be 5 years and come back and ask. If we gave you the option, then it's just as long as the option.
And I'll tell you, these were really super long, and we've talked about this before, these super long time periods of sunsetting. It gets lost because it's just too long. And the boards change and the staff changes and, it's a long period of time and the memories just don't last that long. And so it's almost like, it's better than doing nothing, but.
My main concern just comes back to, he's the tenant. If I own this property and he has no knowledge of the billboard lease or anything that's gone on in the past, he's just trying to operate a car wash at an existing car wash site, and he agrees to this today, he's restricting the owner. Correct. Without the owner's knowledge or ability to represent himself on this matter here in front of us.
Then I think we should hold it until we get all the information.
Yeah. I know you want to get started, but I don't want you to.
The right thing to do.
Correct. I want you to get started. You're
No, and I
it's the
get
difference
it.
between losing time and then losing money too. You
Correct.
do stuff and then it doesn't work out and you've just wasted
Correct.
all that
and
stuff.
Then will there be a recommendation from you guys that we can present to the owners so that we can be prepared for the next docket?
Staff.
I think the recommendation from what I heard that Ms. Baker said would be figure out how long you are stuck having a billboard on your property. Tell us what it's going to cost to get rid of it. If they have a 100-year lease at $1, they're going to want thousands and thousands of dollars. Their lease may be ending in 4 years or 7 years, and that gives us the time where we know that we've been trying to get rid of billboards is basically what it boils down to. Or another option, just to give you everything, change the site plan to have the in and out next to each other go around that billboard thing. You probably lose some vacuums and some parking, but then you can say, we're not touching the billboard site, and that's a separate lot. And that's a way you get around us.
Looking at it, it seems like, just not to scale, but it looks like you can do that. I guess that's what I was getting at. It looks like you can completely
just not with
avoid.
this site plan, but yeah, I agree. I agree.
And if there was some reorientation, and that's something that I can present to the owner as well.
Yeah.
We can have that discussion, and then we'll just put a hold on.
And if you want to do that, just change the site plan. I think it should be that it's clear on the improvements on the site that it's not going to be used that way. I think you couldn't just say, I'm not going to do it that way, but it's clear that you could.
Landscaping around it where it's not just a parking spot.
It is something, yeah. Take the driveway off of there and all that stuff, yeah.
All right, so based on what I heard, if we can get a motion to hold this case until next month's meeting?
So move.
All right. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll see you next month. Best of luck.
Thank you, everybody.
And then, Mr. Ragsdale, will you call our last case for today?
Yes, sir. It is item number 13, BOA 23-031, 3750 Dunn Road.
Can't hear? I believe, yeah, okay. And was there any opposition to this case? Seeing none. Okay. All right, Mr. Davis, oh, and here's your minutes. There was somebody else here, they weren't here for this case, and it was the last one. Okay. Mr. Davis, you'll give us a brief staff report, please.
Yes, sir. BOA 23-31. This case is in regard to a property addressed 3750 Dunn Road. It is a variance from paragraph 4.6.7 C1 to allow chain link fencing. So section 4.6.7 is the bulk of our fencing and wall standards in the EDC. Chain link fencing is not allowed at all in residential zoning districts. This site is a 30,000 square foot lot in the R6 district. The fence has already been installed. It was installed without a permit, so this is a retroactive variance request. The site is located within the pink circle in East Memphis. Here's a satellite photo. You can see the lot is 100 by 300 feet. It's in the middle of the block face. And it is a predominantly residential area. There is a school on its northeast corner. The fence is just along the front property line. It is a front yard fence, and there's also a vehicular gate made out of chain link that was installed as well. Here's a view of the house, which is set quite far back, over 50 feet back, and that gate. Here's a view west down Dunn of that chain link fence. I'll also point out this wooden fence here that was installed. Generally, we don't allow wooden fences over 4 feet tall in front yards. For very large front yards like this, we exempt that rule 40 feet beyond the front property line. Technically, all of this fence, the wooden fence here on the side property line that's within 40 feet of the front property line is also non-conforming. We're not addressing that in this variance because it's not what the request concerned. So we're just looking at the chain link fence, but I did want to bring that to your attention. Just for some context here, 2 houses that are immediately across the street from the subject property and a site plan showing that chain link fence. All right, so looking at number 2, again, the chain link fencing was installed along the front property line without a permit at some point between April 2019 and June 2021. Previously, there was a chicken wire fence along the front property line. The chain link vehicular gate was also installed. In addition to the issue with its material, this gate violates the requirement regarding gates that adequate maneuvering room be provided for vehicles to exit in a forward motion. Staff finds that there is no unusual physical characteristic associated with this lot that justifies the requested variance, and additionally that the fence and gate detract from the streetscape of Dunn. So for these reasons, we are recommending rejection of the request. If approved, we are recommending certain conditions, including that the fence be painted black and that the gate receive approval by the city engineer. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, are there any questions of staff?
I have one question.
Go ahead, sir.
In lieu of the chain link fence, what are the options? What are the allowable options for front yard fencing?
So we have a general requirement for fencing that fencing be built out of, quote, high quality materials. Specifically, we have regulations related to single family residential uses. It's different from other sorts of uses. The same high quality material rule applies, but for front yards, we have a 4-foot height cap, and that would be for wooden fences or similar things. We allow you to go up to 8 feet in your front yard if you use an ornamental metal. The code is clear that chain link doesn't count as an ornamental metal. The classic example would be a wrought iron fence or potentially a mix of brick and wrought iron up to 8 feet. Up to 4 feet, you can use a variety of materials, but chain link is again specifically called out as not a high quality material.
Thank you. All right, any other questions for staff? All right, if we can move to the applicant, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Magali Ramirez from Planning and Development. I will be translating.
Name and address.
want
Can you use the mic?
We need to get,
Name
even
and
get the
address.
mic lower so we can.
Desconocimiento. Y también lo quitamos la medida de la vecina que está también igual.
We need the name and address first.
¿Cuál es tu nombre y tu dirección?
Cristina Calma,
Christina Calmo. ¿Tu dirección cuál es?
3750.
3750 Dunn.
Okay, and then can you get her to, we're going to swear you in, so raise your hand.
¿Vas a levantar tu mano?
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
¿Aceptas decir toda la verdad? Y si no, que Dios te ayude.
Okay, thank you. All right, if you can get,
So
yeah.
basically, I already talked to her, and what she was saying is that she was not aware of when she put the fence, the material that she was required to put, and basically she put it up for safety reasons.
Okay.
¿Es algo más que quieres decir?
Eso o que me dicen es que puedo hacer.
Basically, she is willing to do whatever conditions are made. She's willing to cooperate.
But can she put in a different fence?
Ya gasté mucho dinero y además porque mi esposo se accidentó el 14 de febrero, entonces no nos han dicho si va a estar moviendo otra vez porque él está en silla de ruedas.
So she is stating that she spent a lot of money on the fence. Her husband was injured. Therefore, she does not have any help as of now to remove the fence or get it replaced or, with materials that are required.
Okay. Any questions?
How long does she think that she could come up with the money in a certain amount of time?
¿Crees que puedas agarrar el dinero durante un cierto tiempo si te ponen en una condición?
Pues yo la verdad no, ahorita estamos pensando de que solo se arregle este problema y ya lo vamos a vender porque mi esposo está en contención que no se va a morir. No es una mentira.
Él está paralizado. So as of now, she is having a hardship. Her husband is now paralyzed. Therefore, she does not know when.
Any other questions?
Hace como un año desde que agarramos el terreno.
She put the fence up a year ago, so she does not have any answer as of now.
I understand hardship. I'd be willing to entertain some sort of sunset on the fence. I just don't know how long to do it. Do y'all have any ideas so we could ask her? What
2 years. How long is the fence? Do we know how much fence it is?
100, well, it's 100 feet is her lot frontage. So I think the question we would have is, what we would do is approve this fence, but it need to be changed in 2 years or come back to us.
Ellos prácticamente están diciendo que ellos lo van a aprobar para 2 años, te van a dar 2 años, pero en 2 años tienes que venir para atrás o tratar de cambiarla. ¿Algo que quieres decir?
Y si nomás le cortamos, porque me dijo mi hijo, si nomás le cortamos la altura, o no se puede hacer esa malla.
She is understanding that because of the material is a problem, and she wants to see if there is a way that she could bring it down to 4 feet.
Or chain link, that'll just make it, I don't think reducing the height of a chain link.
The problem is the material.
Entonces el problema va a ser el material, lo vas a tener que cambiar para 4 pies. Si quieres poner ya sea de otro material, sí puede ser, pero el problema es el material.
¿Cómo a qué material es?
Si quieres yo puedo hablar contigo, puede ser madera o raw iron.
Okay.
Sí. That's fine.
Okay, make sure she didn't know. Now, she could, if you do a fence that tall, it has to be so many feet from the street, typically. But what's our...
40?
This fence is 5.5 feet tall, so chain link fencing, it doesn't matter where on the property it is, it's not allowed anywhere on the property.
yeah.
If you wanted to do a 5.5 foot tall wood fence, which we see in the front yard here, it would have to be 40 feet from the front property line.
And then 4 feet could be right where it is. Is that accurate?
4
A 4-foot fence
Yes.
could be there.
Yes.
Okay.
It's different material, right?
Right, not,
It's just raw material. They fixed it up, but
Some-
it's just the raw material.
And I hate these kind of cases, but my concern is we're gonna set a precedence for the neighbor or the person who's across the street who wants to do a similar fence, and now they have grounds to stand on, you know. I mean, as much as I, you know, I don't know. I mean, at the minimum, a paint black would be, that would be the bare minimum, just because, but, okay, the person who is simply looking at this objectively would say, either bring the fence down completely or go up with a 4-foot wood fence, which seems to be the only options you really have because of the height and distance requirements.
Or maybe it does not set a precedent because it's not approved. I mean, we didn't approve the fence. Yeah, we are talking about giving her 2 years, but we haven't, there's no approval, so we don't set a precedent for anybody. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
yeah, what Aaron would say is, well, just the visual of it has approved it to where another neighbor, now we get another case next month with somebody that puts up an identical fence.
So they also just do it without.
It gets tough, for sure. You know, because we definitely have a applicant that I feel very sorry for with what they're going through. And you hate to kick somebody when they're down, but then you don't want to have to kick the neighbor that does the same thing. So we just did what they did.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, if you just went through the fence, you know, people just don't know, especially when people put the fence up themselves, they have no idea we have fence permits.
Right.
You know?
Well, for that reason, yeah, we have to ask that the fence come down. I guess the question is, you know, when? I mean, and the when, we're talking about giving her an extra 2 years, but, you know, that's something that can be determined on a case-by-case basis. Yeah, the fence will have to come down in a case like this. That's the precedent being said, it's got to come down.
I see what you're saying.
Maybe on a case-by-case basis, we can decide if it needs to come down now or 6 months from now or 2 years from now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, nothing but good arguments.
It's kind of how you word it. It makes it either an approval or just a time frame.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that.
Let's do this. Does the applicant have anything else she needs to add to our discussion?
So basically what she stated was that she was not aware that there was the fence requirements.
Sure.
And also, one of the reasons why she did put it as well was for safety reasons. There's dogs running around the street, or there's people walking around the street, and just for safety for her and her kids.
Okay. All right, good. And then I don't see anybody else, so there's no opposition. So if we can get a motion to approve BOA 23-21 as conditioned by staff, then we can discuss and add our conditions.
So move.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. So y'all want to approve a,
You finished with them?
yes,
So they
y'all can have a
sit down.
seat. Y'all can have a seat. Sorry. Thank you, sir.
So, to his point, I think it makes sense how he's kind of wording it. We're not approving the fence. We're telling you the fence is not approved, but we're just giving you a little leniency on the amount of time that it takes to remove the fence.
Is that possible?
So we're basically,
I think that the logic of the sunset is, that's essentially what it is.
Yeah, I mean, but I think we are approving it. Like, that's all, the only way we can act is through an approval or not approval. Like, I don't think we can approve, we can't reject with conditions. So it does have, but the logic on the record is we don't want this fence, but we'll allow you 24 months to remove it without being in any sort
and
of
that time
violation.
frame can be, I mean, that's negotiable, that time frame. If 24 seems excessive, I mean, whatever makes the most sense. I don't want to disregard true safety concerns, and unfortunately, like to your point, ignorance on the requirements extends a whole lot further than just this one applicant. So
We can't reward ignorance.
you can't reward it, but it is truly a thing.
So
All right, so what time period do we want to put on it?
I think the 24 months.
24 on this particular case, every case is, okay. So, and so everybody is good with that amendment to 24 months? Okay, just making sure I have that. All right, with that, unless there's other discussion, you're all ready to vote? All right, Mr. Ragsdale, if you'll give us a roll call, please.
Sir? Ms. Gerlach?
Yes.
Ms. Bostic?
Yes.
Mr. Bruce?
Yes.
Ms. Becker?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Claybrook?
Yes.
Vice Chair Savage Towns?
Yes, I find that the standards of the UDC are being met, no, 9.22.6 of the UDC are being met and will not be unduly detrimental to the properties in the vicinity.
Chair Rainey?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, so we have 2 years. Okay. I think we have a couple of announcements. I have one point of order. Our 3 newest members, is there a way they can also get some badges? Should they send you, I think when I got this, I sent a picture to Josh.
Yes.
Is that so they can email you a picture and then we can get the badges for them by next month or whenever?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then number 2, we have all 8 of us here, which hasn't happened in a while since we've had our new members. So we need to convene either right here or out there to get a picture for the website.
Yeah.
And are there any other announcements?
I just wanted to thank Ms. Magali Ramirez for helping us today, so.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Magali.
Yeah. All right, with that, we are adjourned until picture.